Welcome back to the Wisdom Wireless Network podcast with me, AJ.
And me, Will.
Together, we will be bringing you our no-holds-barred thoughts, opinions, and detailed analysis on all things Wizarding World. So with that in mind, grab a glass of fire whiskey and settle into this week's episode of the WWN.
Welcome back to the Wisdom Wireless Network with your hosts AJ and Will, streaming to you on all of your favourite podcast providers and on YouTube. On today's show, we'll be talking about Chapter 4, The Keeper of the Keys.
The man with all the keys, the man with all the keys, the man with all the keys is bashing at your door.
Or just letting himself in.
Well, pretty much, yeah. I mean, as we spoke about last week, the one and only Rubeus Hagrid has made his however many entrances into this book now, but we can safely say that this one came with a bang.
Pretty much a quite loud bang with the door hitting the floor.
Very much so. Now, this for me is the chapter where the tea is being spilt, you know? All of the lies which Harry has been told throughout his 11 years on this mortal coil, his world is just becoming undone. He's finding out his mother and father did not die in a car crash. They were murdered. That's murdered. And he is a wizard.
Yeah, literally for better terms, the tea is being spilled for this entire chapter.
Yep. Hagrid is spilling the tea and he brought cake.
So obviously, we learn quite a lot within this whole chapter. And actually, this is the chapter where actually we start getting into the really juicy bits, where we are now on the cusp of going into the Wizarding World.
Yep.
Let's talk about the grand entries of Hagrid. I mean, we've already talked about... Well, how many does one character need?
How did he come in the first time? On a motorbike, flying through Surrey. Next time, bashing through somebody's door. Sorry about that, and picks it up ever so casually. Excuse me, what's going on here? This man should have an ASBO.
Literally has no regard for breaking and entering. That just doesn't happen in the Wizarding World.
No, absolutely not. It does make me wonder, though, for a man who does have, albeit half a wand stuck in an umbrella, you would have thought that he would have learned Alohomora instead of, banging through a door.
Exactly, the Keeper of Keys, he's not very good at using them.
Exactly, and who needs keys? Realistically, if you've got Alohomora, who needs a key?
Exactly, why are the keys in the Wizarding World?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I know that someone will come for me here and say, Ron had to use Alohomora trying to get through the door to see Fluffy, but wouldn't let them through.
Well, exactly.
After the flying keys.
Yeah, exactly. So there's just some doors that just can't be opened without one.
Fair. I stand corrected.
So, I mean, the Dursleys must know some really powerful lock spells, because clearly Hagrid ain't getting in with no keys.
No, that's British craftsmanship for you.
With Hagrid's grand entrance finally making an appearance to Harry as a 9 3/4-year-old Harry. Finally getting his letter.
Oh, God, we all remember that day. Still waiting for mine. I live in hope that someday it will come.
Exactly. I mean, I'm only a few years late, but hopefully they'll accept late acceptance at some point.
Mature students.
Yeah, exactly. Mature student in Hogwarts. I'm sure there's a catch-up course somewhere. If they've got quick spell for Squibs, there's got to be a catch-up course for late starters.
Exactly. One can only hope. Well, moving on a little bit, what is your thoughts about the absolute sheer lengths that Petunia and Vernon have went to hide the fact from Harry that he is a wizard, but also to hide the fact that his mum and dad were murdered, as opposed to dying in a car crash? That, from my understanding of reading it, Harry was always sort of under the impression that it was a stupid mistake on his parents' part. But then for this giant man to come in and then tell him, no, your mum and dad were actually they were murdered. There's no way around that. And as a result of that, you have basically become the most famous child in the wizarding world for the past century.
And to just hide that and disregard that for him, never revealing that that's the case and blatantly lying to his face.
Exactly. I mean, that just, for me, is absolutely vindictive. And I get the whole point of them trying to live their perfect suburban life and, try and squash the magic out of them. But, I mean, that's just another level.
Literally, it's almost psychotic at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing is, it's like, okay, you're lying blatantly to someone who it was his parents, but this is someone's sister who had died.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, to not even acknowledge the reason why.
Exactly. I can't remember if I've said this before or not when we did cover the Dursleys, but this whole redemption arc for Petunia, because that she said, oh, you didn't just lose a mother that night in Godric's Hollow, I lost a sister too. Well, put it this way, I'm very glad they kept it as a deleted scene, because for me, that was nothing. Because, I mean, it was like if you really did lose a sister, you would do everything you possibly could to protect your sister's son, your nephew. But instead you treated him like an absolute piece of crap. And then to guilt trip him, it's narcissistic. And
oh yeah.
It's vile. It's absolutely vile. And then for Petunia then coming back to the whole revelation of James and Lily being a witch and wizard. And she then says, oh, she knew what she was. She was a freak. She's just a vile woman. An absolutely vile woman.
The thing is, with things that the Dursleys have done, it's very hard to come back and have like a redemption arc for it. It's almost like having a redemption arc for Voldemort.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
For them to have blatantly lied to Harry's face, for him to be sheltered away, bullied, and pretty much just not looked after. For them to then... I mean, the thing is, with them getting the letter, you would have thought they would have jumped at the chance of getting rid of him.
Exactly, you would have thought that, but it's just something so vindictive within them to try and cause misery on him. But part of me thinks, do you think it might be payback for Petunia not getting her Hogwarts letter?
Oh, good shout. Possibly.
And circling back to what you said about having a redemption arc for Voldemort, that I can get behind over Petunia and Vernon, because Voldemort was conceived under the effects of love potion. He was literally like the equivalent of Ted Bundy of the wizarding world. He was like psychologically not right in the head. But as a result of being conceived under the effects of love potion, he physically could not understand human emotion that wasn't hatred. There was no positive emotion.
And it's like the quote that Dumbledore says about don't pity the dead, pity the living, and above all of those who live without love.
Exactly.
For someone to be born into a loveless relationship, not even conceived of love, to then not have any of that within him. So, agreed, honestly. The fact that for Voldemort, he doesn't really have any other option. Petunia, this is all by choice.
It sort of seems like if you compare the two characters side by side, it's Voldemort is completely like he's apathetic when it comes to love. There is no comprehension whatsoever. But whereas Petunia, on the other hand, she does understand it because you see it reflected so vividly in Dudley. So there is some comparisons there, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's like we said before, of actually the whole thing with Dudley is it is hatred by osmosis. He is in that environment, and that is then what he is picking up on.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, this chapter, going back to kind of the overall overview of the chapter. We get Harry gets his letter.
Yes.
But this is the first time in Harry's life that he has properly actually had his birthday celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
And albeit just by having a cake. This is, I mean, it's quite sad to think that this is the first time he's ever celebrated a birthday, and albeit just by having a cake. That's how little he's had.
Absolutely. It is sad, but then again, the smallest amount of effort that goes into gifts, or not so much the smallest amount of effort, but the most amount of thought. Because I think nowadays people get so consumed in the whole consumerism of a birthday, of Christmas, and how much did you spend on your partner? How much did you spend on your child?
Yeah, getting that Dudley vibe of how many presents.
Exactly. And I think Harry receiving that birthday cake, that was made by a man who had only met him once, but you could tell cared for him in like a paternal, brotherly way almost. And he went to that extent of baking the cake and then travelling with it all the way to that lighthouse on the rock. And for me, that was just beautiful. I mean, it was just so nice. But I remember for my 18th birthday, my friend Claire, as a present, she made me that birthday cake, and it was a rainbow layered cake. And I just thought the amount of time and effort that went into her baking that, and then for her to decorate it like Harry's cake, for me, that was one of the best presents I ever received. Ever.
And you're absolutely right. It's more thought behind the gifts that make a gift. It's that whole thing of picking up on something that someone said months ago, and that's then what's reflected in a gift months later.
Mm-hmm.
Those little subtleties makes a gift all that much more special.
Exactly. It's just the thought behind it.
Yeah. So he gets the cake in the chapter, the iconic pink cake with your green writing, all for Dudley to go scoffing it in his little gob.
Well, do you know what they say? Greedy boys will be lonely boys, and that boy was very greedy. Very greedy.
He got what was necessary.
He did, that little piggy tail. Interestingly enough, I wonder how they describe that to the Harley Street surgeon. I mean, they would have been thinking, I mean, I've heard of a porker before, but I mean, this is just ridiculous.
He had a condition where his spine grew 3 inches too long.
I am pretty sure there is a journal article somewhere with that exact documented evidence somewhere.
It's a Channel 5 documentary waiting to happen.
Exactly, and I'm here for it. It'll be on at 11:25 p.m. at night, and between that cash roulette thing. The stuff that you watch before you can't get to sleep. I'm here for it. I will watch it with interest.
Yeah. So overall, really then, AJ, because actually the chapter that really doesn't close. It's almost one of those chapters where it kind of leads straight into the next chapter.
It does. I mean, it sort of sets you up primarily for the magic of Diagon Alley, and I cannot wait to start discussing that because we could be here for ages. But this chapter itself, albeit it was a very heartwarming chapter, but it was very much a filler chapter, but necessary for what is to come. There was something else in this chapter that annoyed me. Oh yeah. Did you notice as well that when you were reading through the chapter, it's sort of, you had the night with the Dursleys, and then Hagrid gives them the coat. But then that's the last you hear from the Dursleys because they had left Harry with Hagrid.
Yes, true. Okay.
So they just completely left him. Like they picked up the pig, little piggy boy in the corner, picked him up, sauntered off back to Privet Drive via Harley Street, and just left this little boy with a big man.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, they've got to walk into a house that's now filled to the brim with letters.
Well, true. Very true.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. The fact that they've just left him unguarded with this stranger that could have been anyone.
It could have been anyone.
No one DBS checked this guy.
No, they did not. I wonder if the Wizarding World's got like a register. You know what kind of register I mean?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And like big long coat, beard, long scruffy hair.
I'm getting the word months. But yeah, there must be a department in the Ministry of Magic who does deal with that.
Well, exactly. I mean, if they've got trackers and tracers on everyone, I mean, they've got to have something.
Exactly. I wonder how easy it would be talking about tracker and tracers instead of, you know, like if you caught out of Azkaban. Do you think there's like an equivalent of like a tag? You know, you're on parole or you're on probation. Right, we'll put the trace back on you instead of a little ankle accessory.
To be fair, that wouldn't be a bad shout.
It wouldn't be. Get me in there. Get me in there.
Reform the entire prison system, AJ.
I really could.
This chapter ends leading on to the next one. And it kind of ends with Harry and Hagrid in the hut by themselves and Harry going to sleep on the floor. And I mean, for you to say that the Dursleys obviously left, well, presumably left, because I'm assuming they didn't all leave in the morning and waved goodbye to each other as they were going in separate directions.
Doubtful.
So I'm really confused as to why, if the Dursleys had left Harry with Hagrid, did Harry then have to sleep on the floor? What was wrong with the bed upstairs?
No doubt. I mean, you've seen the size of Hagrid. You know the amount of stuff he keeps in that coat. Is it possible that that coat was comfier than the bed upstairs?
True, but at the same time, like we said in the last episode, the amount of stuff that's in those pockets that he probably doesn't even realise that's in those pockets.
Exactly. He's probably got a Silent Night divan in there.
24 tog.
24 tog in one pocket, IKEA unrolling mattress in the other.
Memory foam in the top pocket.
Exactly. I love my IKEA mattress. I'm just putting that out there. We've had it for about 6 years and it's the best thing we've ever bought.
Best investment ever.
It really is. I will be sad the day that we need to renew it.
Well, at least then you can go try out all of the beds.
But the only thing I keep thinking about is how many other people have done that same thing. You know?
What, the awkward lie?
Not the awkward lie, but people who are actually lying in the bed. I'm like, I don't know where you came from. I don't know how clean your house is. Know what I mean? I don't know what your personal hygiene status is.
You're going to go into IKEA with a little mini handheld vacuum and just vacuum off the mattress before you get on.
Never mind the vacuum, go with a blue light. I've seen CSI, I know what happens.
Overall, AJ, then, with the chapter, you said it was kind of like a filler chapter, and you are right, it is a bit more of a filler chapter, but you get quite a lot. It's quite information heavy.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what it is? It's like a McDonald's at the end of a night out, this chapter, you know? You know that you need it. You don't really remember it the next day, but it was needed at the time to stop you from having a hangover from hell. It was a necessary filler.
And you'll get the reminder a few hours later.
Absolutely.
No, I agree. It's one of those chapters where it is definitely necessary. It's a necessary evil with this chapter.
I love how we've called this chapter a necessary evil, and yet we've referred to Ted Bundy, Voldemort, and who was that other one? The Dursleys, and they've been like, yeah, not a single word of evil has been mentioned, but this chapter, evil, downright.
It's written on the walls.
Yeah.
The messages come from inside the house. So, I mean, is this one of your favourite chapters, or would you say this is kind of, I need to kind of get through it because I need the information, but I'd rather...
No. I mean, I would certainly say it as one of my favourite chapters because, it's like that line, "You're a wizard, Harry." It's the cake. It's the whole, this is who you are. This is what you're going to do, essentially.
I think for me, it's the dry up Dursleys, you great prune.
Exactly. It's like they get their comeuppance a little bit. And plus Fiona Shaw in that scene, right? I absolutely stand by that. That whole just strange, just abnormal. I love it so much.
Just tasting it, just getting it all in.
It's just sheer spite and it's sheer jealousy. It's just I'm like, love you. Fabulous acting, fabulous.
So obviously then let's talk about the movies then. Because that's kind of what we're getting into. So in terms of then that book to movie comparison then, obviously I think what I quite like about The Philosopher's Stone is every chapter is pretty much represented within the film. So you could literally have a side by side and they are a mirror image at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I will say a counter argument to that, thinking back on it, I'm a bit gutted that we didn't get to see them like in a travel lodge before they got to the hut on the rock. I could just see them all sharing this one bedroom travel lodge in a service station on the outskirts of Surrey somewhere. I could just
picture the Oxford service station.
Don't knock the Oxford service station; they're great.
Honestly, they are.
It's a fab service station. That and Cobham. If you're ever up that neck of the woods.
We'll do a rating of every service station around the UK at some point.
Believe me, after doing several drives up to Glasgow, I probably could do it.
So, in terms of like the acting then, because obviously Fiona Shaw did an amazing job of getting that transition of how she portrayed Petunia. Do you think that was then the same across the board?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I genuinely do. I think Harry Melling as well, playing Dudley the way that he did. I mean, for someone who was so young at the time, it was just fab. It was absolutely fab. Richard Griffiths as well, playing Vernon. Whenever I read the books, I can't help but not picture him, even though they are slightly different in, their hair colour and the same for all the Dursleys. But even at that, though, I just picture all three of those actors, but with blonde hair. If I read the books, because they do it so well.
Yeah, it is literally kind of, that is how you imagine it happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you are right in terms of it is the cast just with blonde hair.
Yeah, basically.
And I think you're right in terms of like how they acted out the characters with coming down the stairs, being these characters where you're meant to be the villains at this point because you're still kind of the bad guys, that you're not nice to Harry. We're meant to still hate you, but they're coming down like worms because something is happening to them that they're unsure of, they're scared of. And incidentally, both Vernon and Petunia know what could be at the other end of that door.
Exactly. It does sort of make you think, like, who did they think was going to be there? Because it could have been Dumbledore, it could have been Voldemort, it could have been Mrs. Fig.
Could you imagine?
I would love that. You forgot to take my bins out, you bitch.
You are right. I don't know who they were expecting coming through the door. God love Mrs. Fig, but...
I know. I also think the Dursleys would have given the same reaction to Hagrid coming in, them coming at them with a gun. And it would have been the same if it was the Avon lady. I could just picture that. Like, how dare you bring the Avon into this upper middle class neighbourhood? Get out of here immediately. Like, do you want a catalogue, Petunia? But yeah, overall, good chapter. Can't complain.
So, I mean, I'm trying to think back, actually, with the letter itself. Obviously, we finally get to read what is inside. And obviously, Mina Lima did a fantastic job of the transition from what is described in the book to the actual letter itself.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm just trying to remember. It does say it's green ink, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like emerald green ink.
Obviously, they cut it down for shortness of the movie and keeping up the flow. But the letter itself that Harry gets is actually quite detailed.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's like list of spell books, school equipment, pets that you can bring.
And the fact that it even says when this term starts, the fact that you have to have an RSVP.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't actually then get to see that shopping list really of what to get until the next chapter in Diagon Alley. So this is that kind of warm introduction of you're going to wizard school. You are a wizard. That iconic line.
Exactly.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Yeah. God, I wish I had something like that.
I know. It would just...
I genuinely do. Instead of, getting like your school list. I say that as if I actually got a reading list from school. It was like an unofficial one that the English teacher said, you need to get this book to read it. Like, I want to read Standard Book of Spells, grade 1 through 7, as opposed to The Great Gatsby. Do you know what I mean? I'm not dissing F. Scott Fitzgerald by any means, but after you study the one book for a whole year, it becomes a bit monotonous.
Yeah. I think I don't think I ever got a reading list. I think the first reading list that I ever got was when I went to uni.
I don't even think I got that. I just got told by what's this anatomy book people? What's the anatomy book people called?
Oh, it is.
Is it Ross and Wilson?
Yeah, Ross and Wilson.
Yeah, Ross and Wilson. And you could always guarantee that the lecturer would say, oh, it was issue 8 when I had it. It's now issue 14.
So good for you.
Yeah.
You should be buying the newest edition because you need to keep yourself up to date.
Exactly. But yeah.
There's just something like, I think it's one of those ones, like we said about the last chapter, The Letters from No One. There's just some really iconic lines in this chapter.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad that they kept them for the film.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely one of those ones where a lot of the dialogue is definitely pulled through into the film.
Yeah. Like, as you were saying, you could literally read it verbatim. Like, the script is essentially in the book.
And to be fair, I have done that a few times with The Philosopher's Stone. It's actually tried to read along, but just reading the dialogue.
Yeah.
So in terms of then the overall chapter, is what would you say worked well for the chapter? Because obviously it's more that kind of, like, it's a filler. It's a lot of information, but it's useful. It's useful information.
Oh God, yeah. Like, as I said, it's a filler, but it's necessary because you need it. You need it to progress on. That information that is in that chapter is absolutely integral to the rest of the plot, not just for Philosopher's Stone, but through books 1 through 7. And this is the foundation of who you are, Harry. This is what has happened to you. And in a way, this is what will happen to you. Sort of type thing. As we said before, breadcrumbs.
And you're right, actually, because I completely forgot. This is actually the first time, really, where you hear how Harry's parents die.
Exactly. Car crash in 25.
Yeah, well, that's every day.
I know, it took me 3.5 hours to get home today on the M25. I was ready for crashing.
But we actually hear Voldemort's name.
Exactly.
This is the first time because, well, actually, no, Dumbledore said it in the first chapter, but this is the first time where it's explained as to what really happened.
Yeah.
And you kind of start getting this information of using Voldemort's name. No one does it. This is not a done thing.
Yeah.
And this whole introduction to the you-know-who.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, this is something that is, like you said, breadcrumbed into this chapter.
Yeah. I'm very much looking forward to discussing the next one for Diagon Alley. Like that.
So much that happens.
It's just the magic comes alive even more so, and I cannot wait to get right into the nitty gritty of that. There is so much.
It does jump the page.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're going to have to wait till not next week, but the week after to divulge into that chapter.
Exactly, because we are covering a hell of a lot. We have got Elop's Magical Owl Emporium, Magical Menagerie. We have got Ollivander's, Borgin and Burke's. No, we don't have Borgin and Burke's. We don't have Borgin and Burke's. Wait, do we? Did they ever mention it?
No, I don't think it does.
And is that
mentioned.
primarily Chamber?
Yeah, so it gets hinted about Nocturne Alley, but not the actual shops within it.
Okay.
So going back to this chapter though, I know you're excited, I know you're itching to talk about it.
Yeah.
But with this chapter, what would you change about it if you had to change anything?
Nothing really. I don't think I would. As I say, the only thing I would like to have seen in the movie reflected in the book would just be the fact that they went to all these different places instead of going just from fine day, Sunday, no post, oh crap, there's loads of post, to a big wavy lighthouse crashing on the rocks type thing. I wish I had just seen them in that travel lodge, in the service station, just for a laugh.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I think I would like the chapter to have ended differently.
In what way? Controversial opinion.
I mean, to have it end with Harry and Hagrid kind of leaving the Dursleys.
Oh yeah, like a bit of closure.
Yeah, like, this is it, see you later, I'm heading off. Like, this is it. I would have liked that, because like you said, it kind of just jumps from them getting and going to sleep to waking up, going to London.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, whoa. 0 to 100.
So, exactly. It's that whole thing of there's no build-up, there's no in-between. I just would have liked it to have had that little bit of closure between Harry and the Dursleys. Even if it's not animosity, there's no animosity there. It is literally just a case of, I'm going, see you later.
Yeah, for sure.
So if I had to change anything, it would probably be that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, good chapter.
So obviously we're now going to go into the next chapter, which is then Diagon Alley.
Yes.
So I think this is a good place to leave it, and we are itching to get into that chapter.
Very much so. Talking of which, itching, as much as I do enjoy my Lockhaven Quidditch Gryffindor jumper, real lamb's wool, itchy. Itching.
I'll say you've got to wear something underneath it, and if you do, it's going to be super hot.
I am sweating buckets here. Look, I've got a gym t-shirt on underneath this. It's all smoke and mirrors. All smoke and mirrors. But I'm still itchy. I am still itchy.
Well, at least you're in theme. I'm just not at this point.
It's
so
good.
With next week's topic, what were we going to cover? I think it is going to be related to Diagon Alley. Here we are going to be packing and getting ready. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for this next episode. And I think what we might try and do for our YouTube listeners then is, shall we get a pack with me episode?
Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
because we are counting down the days to back to Hogwarts at this
It's
point.
less than a month. Less than a month?
It is.
Yeah,
So when that episode comes out, it will be only a few weeks away.
Exactly. So come pack with us. We'll tell you what to pack, what not to pack.
The do's and don'ts of heading to Hogwarts.
Exactly. Make sure you brought your toad.
So join us then next week for another episode of the Wizarding Wireless Network. And as always, make sure to keep your radios tuned in, ready for the next podcast.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.